Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Dax Podcast, the only live podcast based in China. As you already know, every week we bring special guests who are living in China to come and share their story and what they are doing in China to inspire you in so many ways. Join with us is our special guest, Brandy, in China, the founder and CEO of Lucky Page Studio. She has lived in China for over 16 good years now. Oh my God, that is almost somebody's age. And she is the voice behind all the subways in China. Today, we are having her here to share with us her 16 years experience living in China and how does she feel still living in China as at this time. Welcome, Brandy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not bad.
That's great. Good to have you. We are so happy to have you today.
Thanks
I
for
know
having
so
me.
many people will be guessing, oh, who is Brandy? Who's Brandy? And then, as I already said, she is the lady behind Guangzhou subways in China.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have your voice on the subways in Guangzhou?
Um, to be honest, I don't take the metro because it's embarrassing. Even even though people like don't know it's me, just something
Yeah.
about hearing your voice a lot, the next station, the next station. So it's just kind of weird. Like,
Oh,
I don't know,
really?
strange.
That's true. Even me sometimes, like on my YouTube videos, sometimes when I share a link and somebody is playing, I don't want to hear it. Oh,
Well, that is one of the hardest parts about being a voice actor. The first thing you have to learn how to do is not act, is not talk. It's actually be able to listen to your own voice and not cry every time
yeah.
you hear it. So,
Wow. Interesting. So, in case somebody wants to know who Brandy is, who is Brandy in China?
oh my goodness. I've been asking that question for 40 years, I think. Who is Brandy? Well, I'm American and I came here, like you said, 2006. I was 20 something and I thought I would come here and learn a little Chinese, get some work experience, go back to America and get a better job. And then I found
Yeah.
that I learned Chinese quite quickly. And the more you learn Chinese back then, there were not a lot of foreigners who could speak Chinese. So doors were just flying open. Like, do you want to work
Yeah.
here? Do you want to be this? Do you want to try this? And for my brain, I love to be challenged. So I started with English teaching, but then I got invited to do voice acting. I got into a trade company. I was a lawyer's assistant. I was managing a bar. I was all over the place. Every
Wow.
year, just a new challenge or experience. So I turned around one day and holy crap, I've been in China almost 20 years. That's almost half my life. So wasn't really planned, but here I am.
Mm, amazing. You've mentioned so many work before we even talk about your experience in China. Growing up, did you ever imagine that you would live in China for over 16 good years?
No. I did one time try to dig a hole in the sand, to
Yeah.
get to China, but that was airplanes are much faster, I found. So no, I just like where I grew up was a very small town in the southeast of America, and I always had a lot of questions. Been a lot of like a curious child, and I
Yeah.
felt like everybody just kept telling me, "Don't think too much. Just live your life. Just get married, have a baby. Stay in your small town. Just get a job, be normal." And I read a lot of books and watched TV, and I'm like, I want to visit Greece. I want to, live on a boat. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things interesting in life. And here I am sitting here doing nothing really. So what else is out there? And it was really hard because when you're young, you can't get a job because you don't have experience, but you can't
Yeah.
get experience if you don't have a job. So anybody that would pay me to do this, I was like, oh, they'll pay a good money in China to teach English. So why not? Let's try it out. What's the worst that'll happen? And the worst thing was that I never went home.
Amazing. In fact, I growing up in Ghana, I
Mm,
love Chinese movies, Chinese food, but I never wanted to come to China. Even I had admission scholarship to study in China. I never wanted to come to China because of the language barrier.
yeah.
Before coming to China, you didn't have any worry about different cultures, language.
Well, it's funny. I have a friend that came here the same time as me. He's the reason I actually came here. He introduced me
Okay.
to his friend with a job and things. And I asked him a few months ago, we had our China versary. Every year, he's still in China too. Every year on that day that we came, we have our China versary. And I said, what was I like back then? I kind of forgot. And he said, you were so scared, Brandy, that you would not learn Chinese,
Yeah.
like at all. And he said you were practicing so hard on the airplane, like somehow magically in 24 hours, those MP3s were just going to teach you Chinese, and you just walk off the plane speaking Chinese. You were dedicated but dumb.
Wow.
I don't know.
Interesting. Before I even ask about how did you manage to learn the language, just as your friend said you were so scared, I would like to ask this question. Were you a voice actor before coming to China, or
No.
when did you become a voice actor?
My second or third year here, I was contacted by a teaching agent. Right? They just collect foreigners. They're like, oh, there's an expat. Hey, come, add my no, QQ. This is back when it was just QQ.
Okay.
And he said, can you read a book? We'll pay you 50 renminbi an hour. And at the time, that was what teachers were making for private lessons. And I thought,
Okay.
well, if I can teach, this must be easy, because there's no student. I just talk in a microphone. And
Yes.
I read a dictionary. My first job was a dictionary. I fell asleep talking, Dax. I was just like, apple, ball, page 473, page 474, it was so like running a marathon. It was rough, but
Oh,
I really enjoyed it. So
interesting. So I can say that you just became a voice actor by coincidence. You
yeah,
never planned to become a voice actor. I personally, I knew about making money with my voice in the year 2020 during COVID. And I was like,
yeah,
what? So I can also make money with my voice? And I've been
yeah.
wasting my voice for so many years.
Well, yeah,
So, yeah.
like I wanted to be a voice actor when I was 5, because I love watching Disney cartoons, and I would, act along with them.
Yeah.
And that, so like maybe my like child brain kind of had that dream, but never really thought about it as a way. And especially in China at the time, there's not a lot of options. Either you teach English, you do foreign trade, or what do you do? Like there wasn't not a lot of options. So
Interesting. So you came here purposely to teach. At what point did you just quit the teaching and focus on voice acting?
that was around COVID when I finally, because I didn't I had my own school for a while. I quit teaching for other people about 3 years in, because I didn't like the way
Okay.
they were doing it, and I thought it's an American thing, I guess. Like if they're doing it wrong, I'll just do it myself. So I did start a school and did that for a while, and then again on the weekends I would go to the studio and just do a couple of hours of books or cartoons, and I didn't really think about it as a real job. And then during COVID, I have a voice acting friend, and he said, Brandy, go listen to the other people out there doing this. Go listen to what they do. Have you ever listened to anyone else's demos or samples? And I said, no,
Yeah.
I don't see other people in the studio. I don't really. And so I found some, and I realized I was kind of better than that. And I was like, oh, they're bad. Like that's all. He's like, you've been doing this for 10 years part
Yeah.
time every weekend. That's a job, Brandy. Go make money with it. And I said, okay. So I bought some equipment at home. No, actually, a studio. She sent me a little microphone and she said, I need you to work at home. And I said, I have nothing. So she sent me like some soundproofing and
Yeah.
set it up. And that's when I really said, okay. And again, during COVID, like you didn't know what was going to come tomorrow. So I was like, if this job is something I can do more of, then it doesn't matter if I'm in China, if I'm on a beach in Thailand, if I'm back home, anywhere I go, this is
Anywhere.
something I can take with me. So yeah, let's put a little more effort and see where that goes. And that turned into Lucky Pig Studio. So
Wow. Interesting. How is the voiceover industry like in China? Starting that in China.
um I've noticed that maybe in Beijing they seem to pay a bit more, but I think cost of living is higher. And they
Yeah.
focus a lot on like movies and TV show dubbing.
Okay.
And then with Shanghai, it seems there the work is advertisements. Like it's super high pay, but it's not a lot of like everyday kind of work. It's just like here you've got this super cool Nike advertisement.
Yeah.
Again, advertisements in English in China are not really needed, right? It's a Chinese
Yeah.
speaking country. But in Guangzhou, we get like video games and cartoons and educational work. So basically, anybody who studied English in the past 12 years in China has probably heard my voice on a textbook or some kind of material. So that's
Wow.
what I've seen. And again, like there's not a lot of people doing this full time. Most of them are like actors, models, and voice actors, or
Yeah.
they're seniors, they're like stay-at-home parents and voice acting. It's very hard to do this full time, I'd say.
Oh, it's very hard. Before we even go depth into the voice acting, in case somebody was, this is somebody's first time to know much about what is voice acting actually.
Again, it's a lot of people ask me, well, can you do an accent? No. Well, can you do like Marge Simpson or like Bart Simpson? I'm like, no, because if I copy other people's voices or I
Yeah.
do different accents, that's not me. And that's not, like why would they hire me to do Bart Simpson? They have a Bart Simpson and
Yeah.
it's a very unique voice. So I think a lot of people misunderstand that it's not about making other voices. It's about acting with just your voice. So you are an actress. You just can't move your body and stuff in front of a camera. As your videos have shown, when we're actually doing the voice acting, you can see our faces. Like you have to like frown when you're angry and smile if you want to sound happy. And so voice acting is controlling your voice to do what a client wants, even when the
Yeah.
client is absolutely wrong. Like that's voice acting.
Oh, wow. With voice acting, what I've realized is most of the time in China, they mostly like American accents.
Hmm.
That is what I know. Apart from that, what is the requirements needed for someone to become a voice actor?
Um, yeah, there was a time when it wasn't America centric. There was a British wave where all the Brits were getting the jobs, and we were like, So that comes and goes in China. But
Yeah.
to get started, I usually recommend people find a microphone secondhand. Right. A lot of
Okay.
people want to go out and buy the best new equipment. They ask in the groups like, "What's the best mic? What's the best headphones? What's if you it's like being a musician. If you're a good
Yeah.
musician, you can take a broken guitar and make it sound nice. So it's not
Okay.
about the equipment. It's about again training your voice and finding your money voice. Right. I will never be able to do an advertisement for like a movie trailer. What is it? The coming soon to theaters near you. Like nobody wants that. They want that booming man voice. They don't want this.
Yeah.
So understanding that your style, your type is not going to fit every client. You find what people want to pay you, what you're good at doing, and like go down that road, and you'll make money faster. So mine was little boy voices. A lot of women couldn't do that. Everybody can. Unit 1. This is my car. This is a ball. Every American can do that. Well, mostly. But the little boy voices were the
Yeah.
ones that was my money voice, and people would just call me for that. So finding your money
Hmm.
voice. Don't worry about your equipment. Learn to control it. That's about it.
Whoa. So are you saying everybody has got a money voice?
Everybody's got one. I mean,
How do
think
we?
about Hollywood, right? So think about what's his name? That really ugly guy in Spider-Man. He plays the Green Goblin. What's his name? Right? He is
Yeah.
just ugly. And can you imagine when he went to his parents and said, "I'm going to be a Hollywood star"? They're like, "You're too ugly. Nobody wants you. They want Tom Cruise. They don't want your ugly face." And he said,
Yeah.
"I'm going to be the most famous ugly guy in Hollywood." So if you have an ugly voice, all you have to do is find the role that fits your voice and you'll get all those roles. So the more unique you are, actually the better off you are, because it's easier for you to get jobs. But if you sound like everybody else, well, you're easy to replace. And somebody with a lower price comes along, I'm sorry, but the boss is going to go, bye. Being
Wow.
easy to work with, I find is also something people forget when you're in this kind of industry. Networking, like, again, working, like knowing how to work with people. Some people are like,
Yeah.
I'm American, so you need my voice. No, actually, AI does a pretty good job these days. So like, it doesn't complain.
Yeah. Wow. To our viewers who are watching live today with our special guest, Brandy in China, she is the voice behind the subways in Guangzhou. If you have never met her before, you have met her. If you have ever been to Guangzhou and you have used the metros, that is her voice behind. Before we continue, please can you try to tell us we have arrived Guangzhou something something on the metro. Just an example before we
Uh,
continue.
here we go.
That's podcast
Welcome,
station. I want you to use that's podcast station. That's the name of
Doc.
the.
That's the name of the station. Welcome to Doc's podcast station, the terminal of this journey. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for your cooperation.
Oh, how much must I pay for this?
Actually, it's really cheap. It's cheaper than what you pay me on the other stuff. It's cheap. And that's why I tell everybody, right? Because if I
Yeah.
can't get paid, I want to get famous. So I'm like, me, that's my voice. Like, listen, I'm using it to get other jobs.
Wow,
I
interesting.
also,
Now, yeah,
I
that
was going to
sounds.
say, the best part about the Metro job is not the money or the fame. It's my
Yeah.
ex-boyfriend. He takes the Metro every day. The revenge. I do this job for the revenge.
Then he might stop taking the metro very soon.
He needs to buy a car. That's what I told him. He's broke. Get a car. In the torture.
Wow. I realized that when you started talking about the metro, you changed your voice all of a sudden. How did it come about? How do you shift?
Um, well, every voice I have is a character. And to find the Metro voice, it actually took me a few times. They liked the sound of my voice, but not the style. And one day we were just playing around in the office and they were like, they don't speak English, but they're like happy, kaishin, kaishin. And I'm like, this is as happy as I can be. Welcome to Guangzhou Metro. And I'm throwing my pitch up and my face is smiling. And they're like, no, that's not right. And I couldn't find it. And so I was just messing around and I was like, welcome to Guangzhou Metro. And they're like, no, geez, no, we don't want that feeling. I'm like, what do you want? And then finally I was just thinking of different characters. And I said, okay, what about a mom reading a storybook? Once
Yeah.
upon a time. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, that's what you want? Like, okay. The doors are now closing. Thank you for your,
Oh,
and they wanted this mom and very gentle. And I feel like maybe in America, the announcements are very hard. Like, get
yeah.
off the train. The doors are closing. Get out. So they said I'm just too mean a lot of time. My
Yeah.
voice is So I have to, they always tell me, mommy, mommy. I'm like, okay, the doors are now closing, little baby. Take care of your safety. So
Oh, wow. I just love that voice. In fact, I wish I could have your voice everywhere in China.
me too. You're an agent. Start calling people. Get me some jobs.
Yeah. So I know some people would like to go into this voice acting in China. You personally, in case of pricing or charging,
Mm.
how is it like?
This is the hardest question. And this is where a lot of other actors in China disagree with me. So it's a
Okay.
little controversial here. I think if you are new in any industry,
Yeah.
that you do not deserve to get paid what people who are doing it for a long time with experience get paid.
Yeah.
And in this, and again, in these creative industries, there's no rule, there's no general, there's just what you're willing to accept as a price.
Yeah.
And I don't know how hungry you are, right? If you're hungry, you do it for whatever money you get. I'm never going to be mad that someone undercuts me because I know that that's the client's choice about their budget, right? So in the
Yeah.
beginning, for the first 3 or 4 years, whatever they paid me, I just took it because I felt like I was not good at the job. They were paying to train me, basically. You know, every job I
Yeah.
got experience got me better, the better I get. And then one day I was at a studio that I worked with for years, and some new people came in. And I was like, oh, hey, new people. And
Okay.
they're like, oh, we start chatting and they're like, how much do you make? And I'm like, this much per hour. And they're like, oh, me too. And I was like, no, no, this is no, so wrong. So being the only Chinese speaker of the foreigners, the old
Yeah.
crew, the ones who we'd been there for 2 or 3 years, they elected me to go to the boss and be like, hey, boss, give us more money. So that's how we got our first raise, because the boss was like, if I can pay for quality, and I don't blame
Yeah.
him, but still. So the prices, again, the only way you know is if people tell you, and if they're being honest, you never know. Agents will not always tell you what they make from a client, of course. You can
Yeah.
assume they're going to take 20 to 50% from you, depending on the type of agent you work with. And again, you
Yeah.
don't learn about pricing until you do a couple of jobs where you realize you should have got paid more. Then you're like, oh man. But if people aren't transparent about it, it's never going to be easy to discuss. And people don't like to talk about money. But anyways, I for all the new people out there,
Yeah.
if you are just starting out, again, for 1 to 2 years, I recommend, trying to get as much work as possible, which means doing it for a price that's you may not be comfortable with. And remembering that now you have more competition than before, which means prices drop. AI is fighting with
Yeah.
you. And now that a lot, like before, Chinese people couldn't get actors from overseas. Now they know about Fiverr. Now they know about Upwork. Right
Work.
now
Yeah.
they can get out there and find people. So it's not like before where they just literally walked down the street and said, "You foreigner, come in my studio." So
Yeah.
pricing
Mm.
is the hard part, and networking, again, networking with people. I said that's part of the job people forget to do. You do
Yeah.
have to be open and honest, and people will open and honest with you, and you can kind of say, well, Brandy's been doing this 12 years. If she's making 500 on this job, if I make 400, then I'm feeling good, right?
Yeah.
But
Wow. Amazing. Now it looks like you have become very popular in China. Have you
Guangzhou.
ever thought of Guangzhou is the international market? So once you're popular in Guangzhou, you're almost popular everywhere. Have you ever thought of going back to the US to do voice acting? We have Greg watching live. I'm squatting in my backyard taking a shit completely.
Wow. And if you put a microphone in front of you, you too could be a voice actor. That's the beauty of voice acting. You can do it pooping in your backyard. Cool, bro. I've thought about going back to the States, but voice acting would not be an option. And here's why. Okay, so I worked with a movie studio, and I was doing script writing and helping them do sales of their cartoons made for overseas market. Great, cool job. So
Yeah.
some of the scenes, I would do the rough voice acting for all the characters, right? Just
Oh,
so the animators could, move the mouths and stuff. And they
yeah.
sent one of these scenes to a director who worked on Kung Fu Panda, right? They had money.
Oh,
They were hiring like actual Disney, like legit directors. And I was in this meeting. I was nervous because I'm like, oh my God, we're like real people, And he goes, oh yeah. And about the voice acting, it's very 1950s. It's really cartoony. It's not really what we look for in movies these days. We want more authenticity. We want, real feeling. And this is
real.
just way, way over the top. And I was like, it was me. I'm like, I'm sorry. And I realized that all my training in China had taught me a certain style that is not popular in America. So I don't think I would do very good with Japanese anime dubbed in English. I don't think TV shows, like the only reason I'm really good at those short dramas is
Yeah.
because they want overacting. If they wanted real
Okay.
acting, I don't think I could do it. But they want that, like, oh, Empress, why? They want that. So my cartoon background actually helped me with those. But
Oh,
I don't
wow.
think no voice acting in America for me. Comedy. I do want to try stand-up comedy in America.
That is the next question I wanted to ask because I know you started comedy already in China. How is that one too as well?
Well, that's a new thing for me. I'm like 2 or 3 months in right now, and there's not a big scene in Guangzhou. I hear that Beijing, Shanghai, Chongqing, Chengdu, Shenzhen, they've got some good scenes, but there's pretty much really nothing in Guangzhou right now, and so I'm not getting enough practice. And right now I'm still in the funny stories but not funny jokes stage. I can make you pay attention and like laugh sometimes, but I want to be like joke, 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 not story, 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 joke. So I'm
Yeah.
still learning how to write comedy. It's much, much different, more difficult than I thought. But I do think I have a unique voice. I don't think there's very many American women living in China 20 years, dating, marrying, divorcing Chinese men. That's kind of a thing, not very common. Again, and working, like most of my foreign friends, they kind of live in that foreign bubble. They go to a lot of foreign restaurants and they date other foreigners and they have this foreign bubble somehow in China. And I left that years ago and it's hard for me to go back. Like I feel uncomfortable telling jokes in English because I've been talking to my friends at parties in Chinese for years. So it's really hard for me to separate the two Brandys. There's like this Chinese Brandy who's like a
Yeah.
20-year-old dumb girl. And then there's like this American 40-year-old woman and they fight a lot. So trying to get that as my comedic voice and make something of that is kind of my plan for the next couple of years in life.
That's nice. To our viewers who are watching live, our special guest today is Brandy in China. She is currently a voice actor in China and she has lived in China over 20 good years now. And she's sharing her experience as an American voice actor in China. Wow. Upon all these 20 years, changing jobs, several jobs in China, what is the advice you give to any foreigner trying to come to China, especially Americans?
Lower your expectations. Whatever good stuff you've heard about China, like just go ahead and get rid of that. Whatever bad stuff you've heard about China, get rid of that. Walk into it as China is what you make it. If you ask 100 foreigners who've lived here 1 day, 1 year, 20 years, they're all going to give you a very unique view of things because we all speak from our own experience. What you've
Yeah,
experienced in China and what I've experienced is completely different. So
yeah,
depending on who you ask, that's the China you get. And here's the crazy part. Depending on what Chinese person you ask, you get a different view of China. So I'll
okay,
tell my Chinese friends, like, I think Chinese people are like this. And they go, no, that's not true. And I'm like, not true for you, but I met those people I'm talking about. So I know that it's there because I've seen it with my eyeballs, you know? So China is what you make of it. If you're trying to run away from problems back home, they're going to follow
Yeah.
you here. You bring it with you. If you are not flexible, if you have a growth mindset, China will anywhere outside of, just grow. This is a great place to grow. It's a growing country. It's not developing. It's already developed, right? But it's growing and growing incredibly fast. In 20 years, watching it grow has just been amazing. So if you come here with that mindset, you will be fine. If you come in with that fixed mindset of that's just not how things work. In my country, I think well, what we do is like nobody cares what you do in your country. Go back there and do it there that way. But like trying to find that blend, that bridge between would that work here and why? Can we try that or not? It's like I think Americans have this I want to save the world mindset sometimes.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that. I mean, again, it's nice to help people. Charity is great, but like also understanding why people do what they do before you try to change it or make it better. Because
Yeah.
what doesn't work in America may work in China, and what doesn't work, vice versa. People can't understand one main thing, and probably in your country as well. We just don't have that many people. There's just
Yeah.
not that many people. And I can tell my American friends, like, there is a lot of people in China. And they're like, oh, yeah, there's a lot. I said, no. More than what you just thought. Like, imagine a sold out concert of Taylor Swift. That's what's riding the metro every day. That's how many people are freezing in a little can going to work every day. So that's, think a lot of people. And that's why you have some crazy rules or laws that don't make sense for us, or that's why you have some cultural habits or misunderstandings and things, because there's just a lot of people. It's that simple.
That is so powerful. It's true. I have several people who come to China. They be like, in Ghana, it's not like that. In the US, it's not like that. Then why don't you stay in Ghana or US? I love that point you mentioned. So you are saying if you are willing to come to somewhere different, expect these things, these cultural differences, and it seems you are so open-minded. And I'm just being curious about coming to China as a in your 20s, a young beautiful girl that time, and Chinese and Americans. How was that time like in terms of dating or Chinese men approaching? How was it like?
Oh, I was a queen. I was I had like again in America I wasn't ugly and unwanted. I wasn't, bad. But when you come to China, like I said, population, for every one guy that liked me in America, there were 5 here. And so, and they do kind of fetishize white women, right? Or just exotic women, the same way that it's like that Asian fever, that the yellow fever some people get. I think it works the
Yeah.
other way. Like I've been subject to the white fever problem. It's been difficult dating because I can open my mind and understand their culture and see the similarities with my own. Because again, from the South, we're quite traditional in the South. But because
Okay.
they were so closed for so many years, people my age, born in the 80s, China didn't open up until the 80s. And so when it
Yeah.
opened up, all of this culture rushed in. It was like Elvis and Michael Jackson in the same year. It was like, so they just had so much to process with limited language skills and no history of why these things developed like that. So they felt like they were more open-minded and Western more than their parents. But actually, when they get married and start dating, whoop, we go right back to, we got to have babies in the first year. We're going to buy a house. It's going to be traditional. I'm the man. You're the woman. That's it. So I found them to be quite traditional since I'm so open-minded, and that was difficult in dating, and still is. But
Wow. You were very open. I just want to know how the men are like, even just approaching to a queen at that
uh,
time. I know Chinese guy to be very shy.
Oh no, 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 no. They're the way that they approach is less direct, right? So again, like there was a very handsome Nigerian man. He walks up to me in the bar and goes, "You are my queen. Come away with me. I buy you a drink." And I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, like he was the. But a Chinese man might just come to me and say, "Wow, you sing really well. What's your name? Do you speak Chinese? Oh, I'll teach you Chinese. You teach me English." And like I felt like they were trying to use me until I realized that was the pickup line. You teach me,
Yeah.
I teach you in the bedroom upstairs. You know, like they're kind of hidden about it, but they also can be once you know the language, like Netflix and chill, right? If
Yeah.
someone said, let's go Netflix and chill, you know exactly what was happening. But they would say, you know, do you want to come over and try some kung fu tea? And I'd be like, I've never tried tea before. And I was dumb. I was so dumb. You know, again,
Oh, so
men are men. At the end of the day, like there are certain types of men that are more forward, and there are certain types of men that can be more shy. And I feel like every man kind of connects his wallet to his love life. Like if he's broke, he don't want to be dating, and if he's dating when he's broke, it's just going to be a mess. So that doesn't matter what country you're from. That does not depend on your culture.
oh wow, that's very funny. Yeah, pickup lines is more like a trap.
Yeah. No, I mean like I went out with one guy for 3 months because his pickup line was like, "Hey, you're sexy. Let's do this." And I was like, someone being direct. I'm like because most guys again, they would be my friend for months and months and then I would tell them, "Oh, I've got a new boyfriend." "Oh, why didn't you pick me?" You like me?" "Yeah, I've loved you forever." And I'm like, you probably should have mentioned that at some point in the past year, you know. So I don't know. Maybe it's because of their music. Like they get really hardcore into the
Yeah.
culture, music, and the TV, where it's like this unrequited love. I loved my first girlfriend in high school, but she didn't know I loved her. She got married to some man. Now I remember her long hair. You know, this like they have this romanticized love idea that I don't really vibe with anymore. So no, it's fun, but it's also not fun.
Hmm. I'm really enjoying this conversation. To our viewers who are watching live, we have JP Rugaba watching live saying great conversation. Thank you for watching live. And if you have any question, you can ask Brandy as well. And yeah, you can also join this live if you want to ask any question through a video session as well. Hmm. You seems to be mentioning Guangzhou, Guangzhou, Guangzhou. Are you saying you have stayed in Guangzhou all these years of staying in China?
I've lived in Guangdong in a couple of different cities. I started in Zhuhai, and then
Okay.
Guangzhou, and then Shunda next to Guangzhou. And then that was like 10 years with my school. And then Shenzhen up until COVID. I ended up back in Guangzhou. Then I moved back to Shunda. Then I'm back to Guangzhou. Like I just keep making this little loop around the greater Bay Area. I have traveled to many places. Again, business trips. I was a business consultant for a while. So I
Yeah.
got sent on a lot of trips and things. I've been to Beijing a few times, really like it. Shanghai, the jazz is nice, kind of expensive and snooty. Some smaller cities. I saw the Shaolin Temple. That was nice.
Okay.
I like the Northeast because the
Oh,
people are bigger and taller, and I'm kind of a bigger girl. And in the South, they're quite petite. So I
well,
kind of feel
yeah.
like Godzilla walking around. But in the North, I just felt normal sized. Like I just remembered that I'm not gigantic. I just don't fit the size of people here. So that's
Yeah.
kind of been messing with me for years. But I always wanted to move north, but I'm scared of the cold. I don't do snow.
Really? ah, we have RJ Antics giving us a thumbs up, watching live. To all those watching live, thank you. We have our special guest, Brandy in China. She is the voice behind Guangzhou Metro, and I've really enjoyed. She has given us several samples about Metro voices. Interesting. You mentioned you don't like cold. I personally, coming from Ghana, when I came to Zhengzhou, I came in, I felt like these people were kept in a deep freezer. You, as an American, you also feel the same?
I had a friend here my first year, and they told me something very important. Do what the locals do. When they put on a coat, you put on a coat. When they drink the soup, you drink the soup. Like whatever they do, when they open the windows and turn on the ACs, you do it then. Like just follow them. They've been living here for thousands of years. They know how to deal with their temperature. And that's pretty much kept me comfortable weather-wise. But again, I'm from a hot place, so it doesn't bother me. It never, like when it gets cold in Guangzhou, the houses here are
Yeah.
designed to keep the heat out. So in the wintertime, it's colder in your apartment than it is outside. Like you'll be sitting there typing with frozen fingers and blowing, like you're just like so cold, and then you go outside and you're like, oh, it's actually okay. It's nice. So I think now I could go to the north and be more comfortable with the weather and things. I think it's pretty much hot everywhere. Thank you, global warming. But
Yeah.
now my
Interest.
network is here, and I don't want to leave my friends and my places and my stuff. And
You have lived in China for 20 years now. I just 6 years. But now I feel like I have also built network here. Even going back home, it feels like you're a new person altogether. How does it feel to you over these 20 good years?
well, I haven't been back in almost 10 years. The last time I
Mm.
was back was right before the divorce. Every woman runs home to her mama when she's ready to like break up, right? So I ran home to mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna divorce. Then I came back and had to recover from that financially, so I didn't go back home. And then my job, there was no time, and it was like time, money, money, time. Like it never paired up. And then I started saving money to go home, and my dad said he wanted to live here, and I said, okay, well, I'll save money and I'll get you an apartment and I'll get you a English speaking maid, and you can just eat healthy vegetables. This is the life, Dad. You're gonna love it. Then he died, and I was like,
Oh,
ugh. I was like, come on, like I was this close. I've been working for you, dang it. But I found out his life actually wasn't that bad back home. It's just that I was the person that he would complain to because he couldn't complain to them, right? So from my
yeah.
point of view, he was miserable every day and hated everything. But then I found out later from my mom and brother that like actually he was doing okay. But so that's when I was like, that's right after the second round of COVID. And I was like, well, Mom, if I leave China right now, I don't know when I can come back. And I don't really want to be homeless at your house, a 40-year-old woman living at my mama's house. Like, this is a big no, no, no. I said, so I think it's best either I send you guys money or I come home for a trip. But I think, what do you want to do? She goes, yeah, just send us the money's fine. And I was like, well, like, okay. So haven't been back in a while. Do want to go back. Got some things to take care of. I want to visit my friends who have left China, who've gone back to the States. Like I've got friends all over the world now. I feel like I
Yeah.
could couch surf like from country to country, just hanging out with my old roommates and old like music friends and stuff around the world.
Mm. Wow, interesting. We have Rubaga watching live. He said he never knew Guangzhou gets cold.
It's a
He
brief
said,
moment. Yeah, it's like a maybe month and a half, 2 months of just pure like freezing, like you can't believe it gets that cold. And all you do when it's cold is dream about when it's hot. And when it's hot, all you do is dream about those few cold days. Like you're never yeah.
yeah.
We get a month of spring and fall, maybe like 2 to 3 weeks where it's just the beautiful crisp, clean, cool air with the sunshine, like that fall
Yeah.
weather, maybe about a month if we're lucky. And then the cold hits its. So spring,
Oh,
spring and fall, not a big thing here. You get summer, you get winter, and you just kind of.
yeah. I would have loved to ask you what do you really love about China, but you've mentioned so many of them already. What is the one thing you don't like about living in China?
I don't like that I don't have the right to complain. Right? If I complain to anyone, foreigner or Chinese, the immediate response is, "We'll just go back home." This is my home. There is no home anywhere else. I've literally made my home here. So if I want to say I don't like something or I'm uncomfortable with it, people will come up with excuses or they'll try to explain it away. Like no one will validate the fact that I just sometimes am not happy all the time. And that really hurts. And so I have to find like 2 or 3 good friends to be like, all right, guys, it's venti time. I need to let it out. Cause like, if you let that anger boil up in you, you turn into quite a weirdo here. I've seen some really bitter folks. Like they marry a Chinese woman, they got the kids, they never quite learn Chinese. They're still teaching English 15, 20 years later. You know, the economy's getting worse. They didn't save money. Their family back, you know, like these guys, they are bitter. They sit in WeChat groups trolling around, like just pooping on everything that you try to do. Like if you try to make something of yourself, they're just going to like pull you down. I've had many fights with these types of fellows over the years because again, they're just so unhappy and don't have anywhere to let it out safely. It becomes alcoholism, drug abuse. It becomes, you know, family abuse. It turns really ugly if you don't find those good friends. So the thing I don't like about China is as a foreigner, no matter how hard you try, you will never fit in. If you go to America and you're from Ghana, have you been to America?
Not yet.
If you go there, people, number one, they're just going to assume you're American. And then you're going to open your mouth, and they're going to hear an accent, and then go, oh, so you're not from around here. And then they're going to ask you about it maybe, and they go, cool, I know nothing about Ghana. What's that? You know, and you get this cultural exchange, and, oh, do you live here? Are you visiting? Oh, you've been living here 20 years. Cool. Well, you know, cool. Like, I don't think anybody cares in America because we're an immigrant country. But in China, it's not that, and people forget that. So for me, like, I forget I'm not Chinese sometimes. I'll be walking down the street, talking Chinese on the phone, you know, doing Chinese stuff, buying my Chinese food, just Chinesing my way through China. And suddenly some little kid's like, why, Goran? Why? And you're like, oh, me. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Like, I got comfortable, and sometimes I just want to be the Lao I again, you know?
Yeah. I've never heard you speaking Chinese before. Sheza, can you show John Ma? Or may you John show what? Or the John Butai how Ibamba? That's it.
中文可以。我说中文是有点南方的口音，很多人说我听起来像广东人，因为那个我是北京人，那个不太喜欢。
现在你是广州本地人。那还好，我感觉很多人也想听你的中文口语。
我的中文，如果我在说 we always reminded that this place is not our home. Yes, Ruth. Yes. 如果我说中文的时候，如果不是很复杂的话题，我觉得我可以，我就很自然的。但是你一说到什么，我要想一下，然后就开始有点 like when I talk about something I know, sounds great. When I go off on a new topic, my tones go to hell. They just go everywhere. My words get like really simple and baby-like. So there's two aspects to my Chinese. If you ask me 你是哪里人？你来这里多久？你做什么工作呀？你每个月多少钱啊？你有没有男朋友？你 QQ 号、你微信号多少？我可以教你那些都没问题了。
那还行，也可以。很多外国人认为中文太难学。你怎么学中文呀？
我做过中文老师，你开玩笑。Actually, I'm going to do some promotion here. Check out my SoundCloud, guys. I have just started using AI to write songs to teach Chinese. I think music is what helped me. Being in the music world from a child, learning a little piano, you know, music classes in school, I love to sing. That trains your ears to listen. And Chinese is a different music. And a lot of foreigners, they get so caught up with the tones. And the Chinese teachers use that to scare you. Like, oh, Chinese is hard. If you say it wrong and your tones are wrong and you're going to be bad. And you're just like, this is hard. And when your brain thinks it's hard, it gives up. So if you enjoy the language, like you speak Chinese well, right? You can communicate what you need. Your sentences are, big sentences. It's not like I like eat apple. Like you're speaking like an adult, just your tones are off. But after 6 years, that's about where I started. That's when I started going up again. It's like 5 years to get to that level, another
Yeah.
5 years to get to this level, another 5 years to like, right. So like, it's a steady climb. You're always learning. And music saved me. So now I'm trying to write songs with very simple words, but
Yeah.
really cool, like beats, right? Like very cool, like music styles. I hate kids' music, like with Team
Yeah.
Neela. So like I have a really angry death metal song, and it's just like "你看什么看，别看我，不要看我," it's like you're just angry shouting at people. I'm like that's a thing we do here, you know. And I've got love songs and just a little bit of everything with AI producing it. It's really fun for
Hmm.
learning Chinese. Don't be scared of the
Wow.
tones. That's my advice.
Interesting. I think I can't wait for that to be ready. I think it will really save a lot of foreigners in learning Chinese language, and that is really smart of you to have that idea. Before we even leave, our time is almost fast spent. We have few minutes to end this conversation. I'm really enjoying this conversation so much. And to our viewers who are watching live, our special guest is Brandy in China. She is a voice actor. She is the CEO and founder of Lucky Pig Studio in Guangzhou. And she is the voice behind Guangzhou Metro. In case you reach Guangzhou and you hear that English voice, she is the lady there now. We have Rugaba asking a question. Do you think the Chinese mindset of cultural bonding and appreciation of other cultures will
Mm.
improve over time? Speaking from an African perspective in China.
Yes, I do, because I've seen it happening. Again, 18 years. Um, I remember the first Black friend I had from America that came over here, and I warned them. I said, there's not Black people a lot here, or white people, or any other color. Really, it's all kind of yellow. So you're going to run into not hatred of racism. You're going to run into just ignorance kind of racism. Like someone
Yeah.
told them something, so it must be true because they never had anybody. So I've always been very aware that I am a cultural ambassador, literally for every white person in the world, not just Americans, like French people. I represent the white ones, like, so like everything I do, I feel like people around me are going, oh, that's what white women like. Oh, that's what they shop for in the grocery store. Oh, that's how they talk on the phone. Like
Yeah.
everything you do, you represent the rest of the world. And it's a heavy burden. And most people don't care about that. They just walk through their lives and don't care. So I have had tremendous stress of this. And I think that, again, sometimes when they appreciate your culture, it goes the other way of, like, oh, but I really love basketball. It's like, well, that's cool. Just cause you're Black. But basketball is like, well, not all Black people like basketball. No, but basketball, like, okay, I get it. Oh, but you're a rapper. Like, no, they're not all rappers. Like, so they're still getting more exposure to it. And there's always going to be the ignorance. There's always going to be that farmer in some Hunan village that thinks
Yeah.
you're whatever, but it has gotten much better. There is some positive things coming out of it. I don't know. I think it'll get better. I think now that people have traveled abroad and they've seen, the thing is now foreigners are losing their footing here. Now they're not that magical special, ooh, lao wai, let's date
Yeah.
them. Let's do everything for money. Now they're like, bro, your country's not, I mean, my country's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like, so I'm scared that it's actually swinging too hard the other way.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like there's this big push to be like, we don't need this foreign influence or cultural bonding. We just need China now. And I'm hoping that within a few years, it'll swing back and hit the middle. I feel like in maybe 2 more generations of kids, they're the ones that are going to be the balance. Because, and again, every culture kind of does this, like in education, right? It starts off like very strict. We're going to translate and do grammar. And then it's like, no, we're just going to like try to learn it freestyle. Then like it just, everything kind of switches back and forth for a while. But when we hit that medium spot, you'll feel it when it's like, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're cool, If you're trying to help people, you're not a jerk. There's only two kinds of people in the world that I've met. Doesn't matter what country they're from, if they're man or woman, old or young, black, white, yellow, purple. There's nice people with open mindsets who say, this is different. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for me, but that's fine. And then there's those that are just like, no, no, bad. I don't like it. It's different, scary, scared. Ah! So two mindsets of people. Hang out with the ones, spread more love to the ones that'll grow, and they'll have children that'll grow. They have friends that grow. Hang out with the growers. That's kind of the only way I've survived in this country is finding those people, the open-minded ones who maybe they don't do what I do with my lifestyle, but they accept me as me. And and just kind of works like that.
Oh, you have really educated me today. I only thought it's only the blacks in China that they always think if you are black, you are from Africa, you are all like that. I
Yeah.
never imagined you, the whites too. They also say the same, like, oh, every white is a rapper, every white is a bass. Oh,
No. For me, the stereotypes I get, it's you only eat hamburgers every day. That's why you're fat. It's because you're lazy. I heard like some of my black friends complaining they couldn't get a job teaching English, and I'm white, so it's easy. I said, honey, I got turned down for a job because I'm too fat to chase the children. They said, right? Yeah. You can't work here because you're too old. We want someone who's 20. You're 20. You're 30. That's too old. You don't have enough energy. I'm like, yes, I do. So like we get stupid stereo. Oh, all Western women love to do that thing on those movies you see. Like they think all of us are like crazy about that thing. And I'm like, actually, I know a lot of women that are still virgins. Like a lot of white women I know still they want love. So they just have these fixed ideas that can get pretty difficult to deal with. Again, it doesn't matter what race. If you're just not China, and even in China, they have these stereotypes against other. Oh, you're from Guangzhou, you must eat, rats. And Guangzhou people are like, well, you're from the north, you must, So they have generalizations and stereotypes for their own people. Like that never goes away. So educate people by being nice and letting them know we're all special, uniques, but we're all the same. Yeah.
wow. In fact, I'm really enjoying this conversation and I'm learning so many things. But due to time, we have to leave. We have some 7 minutes to end this conversation. Before we leave, I know there are so many people who like to reach you, who like to contact you. I'd like you to tell our audience what you are doing in China and what, in case they need anything from you, voice acting. The platform is yours now.
Again, all of my social media channels is Brandy in China. I do have a Facebook page kind of geared around my live stream from before. I have an Instagram and Twitter that I barely mess with because I'm just lazy. I just started some Chinese social media stuff. So Chinese TikTok and WeChat channels. I'll post some videos. If again, I do singing part-time with a band, usually smaller gigs for just, if you want someone who feels when they sing, but not necessarily looks like a model on stage, that's me. I'm trying to get into comedy. So if you want to get into comedy, you've got some avenues or want to connect on that. And again, I'm just a people person. I know people. So just connect with me and tell me what you're doing. And I'll see if I know somebody who does that. And I hook people up all the time.
All right, sure. I'll also put links of all your platforms in the description box in case you want to contact her, in case of voice acting, any project you want to get from Brandy, she would definitely do so for you. I have two last questions.
Call Dak, he's my agent. He knows my prices.
I have two last questions to ask before we leave. Upon living in China for 20 years now, how has been the change? I came here in just 2018, but within 2018 till now, I can see so many change in China. How has the change been like in China to you?
Um, Two big changes. One is the transportation, right? They didn't have a good, fast, efficient way to move the population during the holidays, the two holiday seasons. And so that
Yeah,
was always a mess. And it's still a mess now, but considerably less. Now there's more highways, high speed trains, more flights, like the whole infrastructure of transportation has been redone and built up so much. It blows my mind. Like that is the coolest thing about China, is just getting from point A to point B is so much easier now. Um, so I think that's really cool. And the other thing, obviously, is some tighter controls against crime. And again, not my country. So however they want to, like, I'm visiting in someone else's house. However the parents want to set rules for their kids, I'll follow along. I may not like it. All right. It may not apply to me
yeah,
sometimes, but I'm a guest in their home. So let's put it that way. There are things that I don't think as an American I agree with per se, but I also am in their
yeah,
house. So just chilling. I don't break laws as a
yeah,
general rule, but I have seen less drugs, less crime, more cameras. Um, I actually, one of my favorite crimes I committed, can we say that here? Was I bought the ticket for the train in the afternoon, but I
yeah,
used it to go through the turnstile and get on the next train to where I wanted to go. So I like jumped my seat, and got on a train. That you can't do that anymore. So that
yeah,
changed. So it's like you gotta wait patiently in line now, and copyright laws, like music and things, you have to pay for streaming services now. Back in the day, there were just DVDs on the street for everything. So like
yeah,
they clamp down a little bit as much as they can. And again, I had a lawyer tell me years ago. He's like, if you're not breaking the rules in a big way, there's just too many people. It's not that they don't
yeah,
want to monitor this stuff. It's just there's just too many. They just can't. So if you're just like doing something to make your family get some money, that's great. But if you're trying to like create a franchise or a group of people scamming others, yeah, they're going to come and get you. So I think, but that's a good thing. In a place where there's so many people, you need
yeah.
more and tight controls. It's just a fact of life. So that's
Wow.
changed. And overall, again, just the people having more access to the outside world, and that changing their ideas and letting them see that China is not horrible. China is not the best. It's not. It's just something now, and letting them just see more of the world has been very useful. So music's gotten
Hmm,
better.
that's nice. Now, our last question before we end this conversation
Okay.
is, how has China impacted your life if you are to flash back from the 20 years?
Hmm. Like I said, there's a Chinese woman inside me. That's why I'm so fat. There's two women. No, she's there's this 18-year-old girl that lives in my head, and she definitely has thoughts that American Brandy disagrees with. So that made me get married before I was ready. Right? That's a big impact. Right? She was 29 saying, if you're 30, no one will ever love you again. And I'm like, no, no, my grandma has a boyfriend, right? It's not true. You can be old and find love. I know this is true. But like Chinese Brandy worked hard to get me married that year. And I may have, in retrospect, made some mistakes there. So I feel like the impact is now I can see things not, and again, because I learned Chinese, I didn't just learn the words and say what I want to say in English in Chinese. I learned to speak the culture and the things they do. I didn't realize the culture was affecting how I think about a problem. And I have to turn it on and off. I'm like, okay, I'm in a business meeting. Do I want to be Chinese Brandy, right? Or do I want to be American Brandy? American Brandy is going to step up to the boss and go, no, boss, that's a terrible idea. Chinese Brandy is going to wait till everybody leaves and go, well, boss, I think that other idea you had earlier that might have been, so like how do I approach things has been different. I have more choices now, right? Chinese Brandy can get things done in a different way sometimes. So
Wow. Interesting. In fact, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I wish to have you more to enjoy, share our life experience, and so many things. And in fact, I must say you are funny as well.
I'm gonna have to interview you someday. I want to know about you. We learned about me today, but I bet you have a very interesting story of how you got here and how you got your jobs and things, and it's pretty cool.
Sure, I'm always available to do that. We can arrange that, and we'll have that some other time, same as this.
Cool.
Yeah, we have Naomi Wells watching live saying excellent.
Is that my bestie? Because I have a Naomi friend. I don't. Is that your last name, Naomi? I don't. In China, we don't use last names. So, like when you asked me my last name, I was like, I don't ever. Okay, I mean, yeah, why not? But I'm like Kanye. I don't need the West anymore. I don't need a last name.
Interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where time will permit us to end today's conversation. And we had our special guest, Brandy. She is a voice actor who has lived in China for over 20 years now, and she has shared so many life story. And due to time, she couldn't share all. And I know in future we can still have her again. She is the voice behind Guangzhou Metro Station. If you need anything like that voice acting, you can contact her. And we have oh that was you. Leo, that's Naomi's original last name. Leo is here, and yeah, Naomi is also saying Lo is my maiden name.
Yeah, those are my two besties. Naomi, I met online a year ago. She's coming next week for my birthday in China, so she's from America
Oh,
as well. And Liu is the president of the fan club, which is I think maybe just him, so he gets to be the president. But he's one of my good friends in Guangzhou as well. Thank you guys for coming.
oh wow. Happy belated birthday to you, and thank you very much for honoring our invite. Into our audience who are watching live, this is the only live podcast based in China. And every week we try to bring foreigners who have lived in China for several years to share their life experience and what they are doing in China. And today we had Brandy to share her experience living in China. Thank you very much for staying tuned, and thank you very much. Stay tuned for more conversations like this. Until then, Brandy, what do you have to say?
谢谢大家，下次再见。
Bye bye, everyone.